We are live. We're on site, on location, here in Tallahassee for the FSU Clemson game. Kickoff just a little over 24 hours from now. What are we at? Just under 30 hours until, as Gene used to say, toe meets leather and the Noles kickoff against the Clemson Tigers. Spread holding steady at Noles minus 3.5. And I don't know if a lot of money comes in to move this much one way or the other. I think that we're kind of going to see what we see. I think that Florida State's got a great chance in this game to pull an upset. The number 4 team in the country coming in. ESPN gives Clemson a 72.5% chance to win this game. Florida State, on the other hand, the other side of that, right? 27.5%. There are ways that the Noles can win this game. To me, this game comes down to 2 major things. Want to talk about those. Want to discuss what we kind of expect out of Florida State tomorrow and what it's going to take for the Noles to pull off the upset, get the victory, get to 5-2, get into that bye week, and then have a nice finish to the year with who they play next. Shout out to thegramco.com. Appreciate them. Appreciate their support. Shout out to Garnet and Gold for having us out here to be able to do this live on their campus. Recorded something with Kaylee Mudge and Michaela Edenfield. You can go to our Twitter account, either my personal or the Double Fries No Slaw Twitter account. You can see that video as well. I'll put it in the description. But appreciate Kaylee and Michaela. They've got a scrimmage out here this weekend, and so good luck to them in that as that's going on. Want to talk a little bit about this game. Want to talk a little bit about our expectations for it, and then I'm going to be joined a little bit later by Paul Aloise Jr., who owns Renegade Sports Entertainment and also is an attorney here locally in town. We'd like you to make good decisions this weekend if you're in town or anywhere. But if you don't, you run into any kind of trouble, reach out to Paul Aloise Jr. Does a great job, and he'll help you out, get you taken care of. Let's get after it, and let's talk about this game. To me, this game comes down to 2 major things. I want to talk about both of them. Would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. This is how the Noles end up winning this game, right? Now, I don't know that I'm predicting that it happens. So if you clicked on this video looking for a guaranteed way that the Noles win this game, that's probably not so much what this is about. But there are 2 big factors to me. Number 1 is the Noles absolutely have to find a way to scheme around Clemson's defensive line. I think that Florida State can take advantage of Clemson in the secondary. I think that if guys have times to run routes, Florida State will do very well in the passing game. I know that Jordan's not had his best 2 games the last 2 weeks of the year. He still made plays when they needed to be made. 5 or 6 drops last week in Raleigh really weren't his fault. I know he had the 2 interceptions late that ended up costing the Noles. But I think that Jordan was pretty good at times last week, and he was good in the second half against Wake. I think that the offensive line being, they're better than they were a couple of weeks ago. I think they're more healthy. I like that Robert Scott's back. I start Washington if he's able to go at the other tackle. I don't play around with putting Jazz in there. He has really struggled his last couple of weeks. I start Washington. I put it all on the line. I think that Florida State last week tried to reserve him in case somebody else went down, play Jazz early. Wasn't working out very well. Had to go with Washington. I probably just start that way this week. I probably just call it is what it is. I start Washington. I like that line with him. And if Florida State's line can find any way to slow down that Clemson defensive line, they'll give themselves a chance. I don't think Florida State's going to be very successful running the ball with the running backs tomorrow. I think that you could see Jordan use his legs a little bit, maybe get outside, maybe scramble, have some RPO stuff. But I think this is going to come down. First key to the game is that offensive line finding a way to give the quarterbacks, the running backs, the wide receivers time to make plays. To me, the Clemson offense doesn't worry me much. I know that Shipley's really, really good, and we'll need to do a good job on him. But Clemson's secondary doesn't worry me much like they have in years past. It 100% comes down to me. Can that offensive line hold Clemson's defensive line down and give the offense time to work? If they can, I think the Noles will have a pretty good shot in this game. If they can't, Clemson's defensive line could do what Jermaine Johnson did to Miami last year and just absolutely dominate them and really kind of make Florida State's offense pretty ineffective. The other thing that has to happen, the second key to the game, is Mike Norvell has to go for broke. There's no sitting on this. There's no playing it out like we did last week where we're just trying to stay consistent with running the ball and running the clock out. And that strategy might have worked against NC State if you don't make the mistakes, the 2 interceptions in the last 6 minutes, and the horrible punt decision that Master Romano made. That strategy against NC State might have worked. You might have been able to hold on to a lead. You might have been able to conservative your way to victory, but that can't happen this time. Mike Norvell has to go for broke. You've got to have shot plays. You've got to use Jordan Travis's legs again. You've got to throw the ball way more than you attempt to run it on this defense. I think I'd probably have 2 or 3 shot plays the first drive, just trying to test that secondary and absolutely attack. This can't be the game that Mike sits back, tries to run the ball, tries to finesse his way into running the clock out, or as that fly keeps flying around my head. This is what you get for going live out on location. It can't be the game that you try and finesse your way or run your way to victory. I'd love to be proven wrong on this, but I don't see us having the success running the ball against Clemson's front. I think their linebackers are very good. Their defensive line is the most healthy and complete that it's been all season. And so for us to have success, Mike's got to go for it, man. You've got weapons. You've got great wide receivers that can make plays. You get a fantastic playmaker back in Ja'Kai Douglas. You don't win the Miami game without him last year. You're probably not close in the Notre Dame game without him last year. You have absolutely got to go for it. You've got to go for broke, and you've got to just lay it all on the line. This game means so much from a perspective of the recruits on campus to the buy-in of the fan base. I think winning this game, winning this one might mean more than beating both of your rivals at the end of the year or finishing 5-1 in those, or 4-1 in those last 5 games. You win this one and you take the program to a completely different level. We put out a video this morning on kind of a dream scenario for Florida State through the last 6 games of the year, and it all kind of starts with beating Clemson. But you win this game, there's not another game on your schedule that you're worried about, right? You'll find a way against at least 4 of the 5 teams, if not all 5, right? You win this one, you worried about going down to South Florida to play Miami? You worried about the Gators coming in here? You worried about going and playing Syracuse, for God's sakes? No, you're not. You're not at all. This sets such a big tone from a fan base buy-in, from a team confidence, and a recruiting perspective. You've got so many talented stars on campus this weekend, from Hakeem Williams, guys committed like Rod Kearney and others, guys that are coming in and visiting like Zachariah Owens and Reuben Bain, and just so many talented folks coming in. I know there's more that I haven't mentioned there, but so many guys that you could do such a great job with. Mike cannot conservative his way to this victory. It almost worked against NC State. There's no chance it works against Clemson. You have to go the Wake Forest approach. Throw all over them. You need the defense to be good. You need the defense to be strong. Keep them under 28. And you got a chance to go out and win this game. I think that if Florida State can hold them under 28, they'll have a chance on Saturday night against Clemson. Clemson gets into the 30s, have a very difficult time seeing our offense being able to keep up with that and go over 30. Clemson's got a better defense than NC State. Florida State was on pace for 34. If you kind of look at what the first half bared out, you probably only get 4 possessions in the second half of this game. So if you think about it from that perspective, 4 possessions in the second half means to score 30, you're probably going to need to score on 3 of those. That's asking a lot against a really good Clemson team that gets better as the game goes on. I think you need to try and get around that 14-17 number in the first half. If you can get 2 touchdowns or a touchdown and a field goal, that's going to put you around that 24-27 number, maybe up to that 31 if that's kind of where you land. And I think that the Noles will be in good shape from that 27-31 range. Defensively, I think you really need to do your best to hold them under 28. It was done last year, minus the fluky play at the end that doesn't really factor into how the game was played. The defense needs to find a way to do it again. Jared Verse needs to go out and put on a monster performance. You remember Jermaine Johnson gave you 7 points himself last year. Lawrence Philly, miraculous play to give you a touchdown as well. Though the Noles were driving there, I don't think that they weren't going to score. But you need some highlight-type plays, maybe by a Ja'Kai Douglas, maybe by Lawrence Philly again, who obviously has a knack for the big moments in this game. Maybe it's by one of the receivers. Maybe you've got Johnny Wilson making plays like he did at Louisville. Maybe it's about a guy like Pokey Wilson, who we'll talk with Paul about here in just a minute, making plays. But either way, there have to be big plays made. You have to have splash plays, and that's why I think Mike really needs to, again, go for broke. You have to go all out. You can't conservative your way to this win. I know I've said that a lot live, so forgive me for being repetitive. You can't conservative your way to this win. It's got to be going for it all out. And if you do that, you've got a chance to win on Saturday night. And what happens if you win on Saturday night? We'll spend all week talking about the impact of that as we head into the bye week. 2 ways this season can go, right? We can get closer to 500, or we can almost guarantee ourselves a bowl game and get pretty close to 8 or 9 wins with a win on Saturday night. Noles are a 3.5-point dog. Let me know your thoughts in the comments as we're chatting right now. I'm live on location, so I'm on my other screen. So if you've been commenting, guys, if you've done any super chats, if you've done anything, thank you very much for them. I will certainly shout you out later. I don't have all my screens, so I can't share and do extra stuff like I normally would. I do have a winner, and this will be random, but I don't, again, I don't have the screens and having some technical difficulties. I do have a winner. Let's hit random, and we have a winner for the tickets for tomorrow through our Patreon, patreon.com/DFNS. Spinning. Chris D'Agostino. I'm not sure how to say that. Chris D'Agostino, congratulations. You win our tickets. Do me a favor and shoot me an email. Shoot me a message on social media. Hopefully you see this quickly. I'll give you till 8 a.m. tomorrow to claim these tickets. And if I haven't heard from you by 8 a.m., we'll run it again and we'll draw another one. But you can sign up for more giveaways and support the show at patreon.com/DFNS. Again, Chris D'Agostino, I don't know. I'm struggling with it, but Chris D, we'll say that. Chris, congratulations, 2 tickets to FSU Clemson. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. I'm going to bring on Paul Aloise. I pre-recorded this, so this part, Paul and I chatted for just a few minutes. Got some thoughts on the game. Want to chat with you a little bit about what Paul's going on, and we'll wrap it up. We'll see you guys hopefully after the game tomorrow. It's going to be late. We'll see how the service is out by the stadium, but if not, then obviously first thing Sunday morning. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in. Come see us at the tailgate. Go Noles. All right, I am joined by Paul Aloise Jr., 2013 national champion. He is over Renegade Sports Entertainment, also an attorney here in Tallahassee. Paul, you excited for this weekend, man? Let's talk a little football, man. What do you think this weekend?
Man, I'm pumped. This is what we've been waiting for. I know we've had 2 rough weeks in a row where honestly I think we were the better team each week. Absolutely last week against NC State, but this is our opportunity to get back in the win column, beat a top 5 ranked team, get a big ACC win. I mean, to me, this is having those feelings of that 2013 year again, going into that big Clemson game and really making a statement to the rest of the country.
I like it. You're going to be out partying tomorrow? You're going to be out. I mean, I know it's business on Friday, but you're going to be out playing tomorrow, aren't you?
Absolutely. It's a little business, a little pleasure, a little enjoying, a little partying. I'll definitely be networking just like you, throughout the crowds, throughout the tailgate. Got to go around, shake some hands, kiss some babies, do everything like that. And then, obviously I represent Pokey Wilson for NIL activity, so I try to go see his family, keep them updated on what we're doing on the NIL front, and just definitely enjoy the game day, though. It's beautiful weather out here in Tallahassee this weekend.
Feels great. I love Garnet and Gold having us out. You guys did a signing here. Talk to us a little about working with Pokey, working with the NIL. Give us an update on some pro guys that you're working with as well, and just run us through a little bit that you got going on with Renegade Sports.
No, thank you. Yeah, the signing was fantastic over the Garnet and Gold store, and I want to thank them again so much for allowing us to do that there. They have a long-standing history here in town, not just with athletes, but, with Florida State, with the students. I mean, I remember stepping on campus as a 17-year-old going to the Garnet and Gold store, and now here I am representing, a Florida State player for an autograph signing. So for me, it was full circle moment. Pokey had a fantastic time, and the fans were great. I mean, we did an hour there. I wouldn't be surprised if we had 75 to 100 people there during that hour, especially the first 30, 40 minutes. I mean, was just nonstop, and people had some great items that they bought from the Garnet and Gold store. And then as long as they bought an item, Garnet and Gold was nice enough to allow them to get some personal items signed. And man, some guys came in with some awesome edits, especially of Pokey flexing over the LSU defensive back after his big touchdown in the LSU game. So it was just a fun time to interact with the fans and allow Pokey to really give back to the community and allow the community to get to know Pokey on a more personal level. And, he's continuously week in and week out had big plays, especially last week with that fake punt return play that he returned for about 50 yards. I mean, he was electric last week, and it's unfortunate we didn't pull out the win. I know he's most focused on that, but me, being his representative, I'm still happy to see him succeed individually.
Yeah, I was about ready to rip my TV off the wall, bro. And excitement with that. I was like, no way did we just pull that off. So that was so cool to have him kind of go off there. Give us an update on some of your pro guys, man. What you got going there?
No, definitely. So recently the biggest update I've had from one of my pro guys is Malik Henry. So not the Malik Henry that was at Florida State, a different Malik Henry. He played with the Colts, the 49ers, and the Saints in the NFL. And then these past 2 seasons he's been up in Calgary with the Stampeders. And, he's loved it up there. So we actually just signed a 3-year extension up there. He's not only one of the top receivers in the league, but now he's one of the top paid receivers in the league, and rightfully so. So it was really great to be able to, help represent him throughout that process and help him, get the contract locked in so that he can feel comfortable moving forward with his future and, put the team in a position to win in the future as well. Because as you know, there's only so much money to go around these teams. So you need to be smart with how you structure the contracts to ensure that not only your client is getting what he's deserved, but that the team still has the opportunity to pay players around them so that the team can succeed from a team level and reach the playoffs and hopefully get that Grey Cup. A couple of my NFL guys unfortunately had to sign injury settlements. So the New York Giants reached out to me about one of my receivers last night. Unfortunately, he's still recovering. One of my other players who had an injury settlement, he just got cleared about a week and a half ago. So I'm expecting him to be in some workouts over these next week or two. And then, our guy, Jacques Patrick, we've had a lot of conversations with teams lately. And to me, it's just a matter of time. And when another running back gets injured, that he's going to be getting a call from the team to get back out there. So, unless you're a top guy in the NFL, it's hard. And people don't realize that it's a big influx and change of rosters on a constant basis, on a week-to-week basis for whatever needs and injuries occur. So, it's kind of one of those, we're kind of in the first third of the season right now, seeing how things shake out. But my guys are doing good, and I'm just having fun representing them, especially across multiple leagues, and we're getting ready for the XFL draft next month as well. Actually, one other thing from a former Florida State receiver, Bobo Wilson, who I played with on the national championship team, and he played for the Tampa Bay Bucks. He had recently switched over to me to be his agent a couple months ago, was able to get an invite to the XFL draft next month, and then he just got an invite out to the NFL Alumni Academy. And the NFL Alumni Academy obviously allows him to work with some of the best free agents who are not on rosters right now, obviously to help him get back to the NFL, but it also guarantees him a spot on an XFL roster this spring. So you're going to see, some familiar faces continuously play in the USFL, XFL, NFL, and CFL. And obviously I have Matt Thomas, former Florida State, who's just been balling out of his mind up in the CFL. He's player of the week a few weeks ago, and I know he's been getting all-star votes, so he's looking to make his way back to the NFL as well.
Heck yeah, good stuff. People are in town this weekend. We certainly want them to make good decisions. We want to encourage people to be smart and safe and just freaking call an Uber. If people do get into trouble and make bad decisions, which certainly nobody on this channel would, but if people do make bad decisions or get in a little bit of trouble this weekend, man. Tell them a little bit about what else you do and how they can kind of get a hold of you.
No, thank you. Absolutely. So, like TJ said, in addition to being a sports agent, I'm a criminal defense attorney and personal injury attorney here in Tallahassee, Florida. I work at the law office of Brooks LaBeouf. I was a former felony prosecutor here in town, prosecuted down in South Florida as well. So I've been on both sides of the law. And, I would say some of the most common crimes you see out here, I know I talked about them earlier in the podcast, are DUIs, disorderly conduct, resisting without violence, possession of marijuana. What most people think are small, petty misdemeanor crimes, but in reality, they can have just immense effects if you're a student, on scholarships, on bright futures. It can have effect on your driver's license. So, absolutely call an Uber. What I would say is that, I'm not allowed to give out legal advice, but I think one of the most important things I like to point out to individuals about DUIs is that, God forbid you're pulled over. You might be pulled over for speeding. Hopefully you're not involved in an accident. Maybe you didn't use your blinker, right? So that right there is a lawful stop. As soon as the officer makes the lawful stop, if they then, smell the odor of alcohol, see red glassy bloodshot eyes, they're trained and they're going to pretty much assume and begin an investigation into, a DUI, especially after a game day, right? Or before a game day. But then they're going to ask you some things. They're going to ask you whether or not you want to submit to a field sobriety exercises. And I think one of the most important things for people to remember is that field sobriety exercises are voluntary. You do not have to do them. A lot of times people feel like they do because they're on the side of the road with law enforcement, but they are absolutely voluntary. And then after that, the officers will ask you, if they decide to make an arrest on you, they're going to ask you to submit to a lawful test of your breath. And sometimes, if people are under the influence of drugs or marijuana, they'll say, give me a breath test. Give me a breath test. If you blow triple zeros and they still think you're under the influence, they're going to ask you to give a urine sample. And in Florida, if you have a driver's license, they view driving as a privilege, not a right. So you actually consent to giving a sample of your breath or a sample of your urine when you have a driver's license in the state of Florida. And if you refuse it, which you can, again, it's voluntary, but if you refuse it, there is a 1-year driver's license suspension that automatically hits. And that's from the DHSMV. It's not from the criminal case at all. It doesn't matter if you're arrested or not. If you refuse to submit to a lawful request of your breath or urine sample, it will have a DL suspension. But what I can tell you briefly, and again, it's not legal advice. You have to do what you feel comfortable. Both of those are voluntary. But when I was a prosecutor, the more ammunition I had, the better. So the more someone tried to walk in a straight line or do the alphabet or fell over in these field sobriety exercises, and the more that they gave breath samples or urine samples, and I had drugs or alcohol to work with, that just made my job easier. So, when I'm a defense attorney and I'm representing people, the less information the prosecutors have, the better. Obviously, like TJ said, call an Uber. I cannot stress. I don't care if there's a surge on it. I promise you, it's much, much cheaper than hiring someone for a DUI. And on top of that, though, if you are involved in a car accident, I cannot stress enough, call the police for them right there, whether it's your fault or not. Insurance is going to get involved, and it's important to have attorneys involved. But if you get into a car accident and then drive away, you will get charged with leaving the scene of an accident. What people don't realize is that in a college town like this, there's cameras everywhere. There's cameras on establishments, businesses, bars. People have iPhones. People have dash cams. Just call the police, do the right thing, and it really does make everything go a lot smoother.
How can folks get a hold of you if they need you this weekend? I know you'll be out of the game and stuff, so don't bug Paul at 7:30 tomorrow, but maybe a Sunday morning if they need you. How can I get a hold of you?
Absolutely. If I need to be a first appearance Sunday morning, I promise I'll be there. I've done it before. I did it on Christmas this past year, unfortunately. They can reach me via my cell phone. I'm very accessible via text or call 772-485-9259. Once again, that number is 772-485-9259. I handle cases statewide. Call me, text me, or reach out to me on Instagram. I get a lot of business through there, and it's just at Paul, my first name PAUL _ my last name ALOISE.
Paul, you got a score prediction for tomorrow night? We winning this thing?
I don't have a score prediction, but I'm gonna come out and say we're getting this win. Listen, Wake Forest should have beaten Clemson in regulation. They should have beat Clemson in overtime. Now, I'll say this too. I am recruiting some Clemson players potentially to sign. One of my partners, is licensed in that state that I work with. So he's representing some guys in that state already for NIL purposes. And so, there's a couple guys on Clemson I'm hoping to represent potentially after this season or even next year if they stay for a senior year. So I'm not going to dog them. I got to, like Michael Jordan said famously, Republicans buy sneakers too, right? So I'm not going to dog Clemson or Florida State here. But absolutely, I'm taking Florida State for the win. I got to do it.
Paul, I appreciate you for hanging out, my man. You have a good weekend. Hopefully see you tomorrow.
Absolutely. Let me know where that tailgate is. I'll stop by, brother. Good to see you.
Got you, buddy.
See you, my man.